Okay, I think we're set up. All right, so I'm super excited today because I have asked Angie, one of our mama clients, um, she just got done with her exit call. So at the end of the program, we always do an exit call where we celebrate the data and the changes that have happened to clients that have gone through the program. And so we just got done with that. And I had asked her if she would be willing to share her son Jed's story because it's really amazing. And I'm so, so proud of them and where they've been and or where they've gone to. And so she was kind enough to agree to do that. So, hi, Angie. Thank you for being here. Would you just, can we start by just having you give us an overview of Jed? How old is he? And then will you just tell us a little bit more about what your story was before we met?
Yeah, sure. So Jed is 10
Okay.
and he's my oldest and he is currently in the fourth grade and he's just always been um a very docile, like respectful, kind, super observant boy. And so we homeschool and so I've always enjoyed working with him and he's always been we just have a good relationship, and he loves like all the things boy, I suppose you want to call it. So he's always been super proficient at like mechanical things and he loves to bike and ride motorcycles and balance and all the things. So he's been just a joy to work with always. And so when we came upon time, to school, I was really excited. So I was a former teacher and I was an English teacher. So I was like, oh, I got this. Like I did all my research and we
Yep.
started and we used, let's see, we started with all about reading. So, I mean, I think I started him in retrospect, I probably started him a little too young, but I was so excited. And we were a reading family, like reading aloud.
Yep.
And so I started him with all about reading and, maybe age 5, and we kept going and going and going. And though he enjoyed the time and he enjoyed it, um, it just felt like we were working really hard, like,
Okay.
and not really the gains we were making were just minute, but we just kept at it. And I think once with all about reading, we ran into some fluency problems where it became a battle where, he would be expected to read like big passages
Okay.
and it would just be like every day we would be doing it and he would just be at the same level. And I just felt like for him to be working this hard and not really seeing gains, like we have to change it up.
For sure.
And so we switched to more of like I guess you want to call it like a Barton method where
Sure.
you focus away from the Orton Gillingham was the big buzzword. People were telling
Okay.
me to use Orton Gillingham. So we
Sure.
focused away from the fluency and we went into more of like a phonological awareness
Mhm.
approach. So
Mhm.
he was encouraged to memorize all these sounds and I think there were 70 or something, but he
Okay.
kind of enjoyed it because it was different than just having to sit and like read word after word after word. It was kind of
Yep.
like a game. So we are doing that, but I mean, it was taking us like an hour a day.
Okay.
This is like throughout the process of our homeschool. So he's probably like in second grade at this point. And in the meantime, I have a younger daughter as well. She's about a year and a half younger, and she was homeschooling too, I guess, but because I was spending so much time with him, I didn't really have as much time to spend with her.
Sure.
And she just starts reading books, like
Okay.
through osmosis or something. I'm like, what? Like, I haven't taught you all this.
Yeah.
And it just starts clicking for her.
Mhm.
And so I decided I think it was grade 2, we're spending hours a day with Jed on language arts. And then in grade 2, I said, maybe I'll just see if I can do this grade again. We were
Yeah.
working with a charter school, even though we homeschool. So I was able to retain him for grade 2. And then, you know, we do it again. We do the same
Mhm.
approaches because no one's really able to give me um, a hard plan, like date, what do we need to do to tackle this?
Yep.
And I never had him formally tested, but when you homeschool and you are working with a child, you definitely know,
And you
like
saw
if
your
there's some,
daughter. I mean, there
yeah, and I saw my daughter.
for sure.
So, and I was researching what dyslexia was, and so we were just doing the same thing again. The second, and then grade 3 comes along, we're doing the same thing. So it was just this, I felt
Yeah.
like we were getting to a point where we were like perpetually just working so hard
Okay.
and he wasn't I was worried that he was going to say like, yeah, I work hard, but what really, I'm only getting this much
Yep.
better every year.
Yep.
And to me, that's not really something I wanted him to
For
learn.
sure.
Like I want him to learn that when you work that hard and when you put your time in and
Mhm.
it's working smart,
Yep.
that there should be a certain amount of growth. I mean, I understand there's adversity and I understand that everybody's not good at everything,
For sure.
but it never set right with me that there wasn't a better way to do this. So
For
I
sure.
shifted and I started I just decided, I feel like there isn't really an answer before I met you. There's really an
Oh,
answer. So I'm just going to focus on all the positives of
sure.
his type of brain because I could tell
Yep.
he was very gifted, very
Yep.
intelligent,
Yep.
he's good at so many things. Like, of course, he's not going to want to sit and read. That's kind of that was his logic. So I just started focusing on what we called his superpower brain.
Yep.
You have this gifted brain
Mhm.
and I started learning a little bit as much as I could understand about how that brain looks and like the processing and like all those things that I could maybe tackle and understand and then encourage him with.
Yep.
Um, and so we just went that route and we're like, oh, look at all these people that
Yep.
were dyslexic. And my husband is dyslexic. And so look how smart daddy is. And,
Yep.
look at all these different gifts that all of that he can tackle. And so, but then to me, it just was like, well, it would be really nice though,
Yeah.
if we're going to be, if we're
Yeah.
going to be homeschooling and we're going to be going through life together for him to be able to,
Yeah.
work a little bit smarter in this area. And so
For
then I met
sure.
you, and then I found your program after. So I think it was the end of his third grade year. So the beginning of this year. So
Mhm.
this summer, I stumbled upon your program and just kind of even reluctantly like approached it because I
Yep.
was like, this can't be true. Like nobody's ever mentioned that there's a remediation that actually
Hmm.
works at this
Hmm.
rate for a
Yep.
child with dyslexia.
Yep.
But it just never. And
Yep.
I felt like I'd researched and talked to so many
Of
people.
course.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Oh, for sure. And I think, Angie, what's so powerful is like what you're saying is not unlike what it's like for so many moms. Like you do believe that it's going to get better. And if you just give it more time, or if we just try a different approach, or if we just, but was there a moment for you where you just said, okay, enough, like we can't take another school year? Because I think what I'm hearing you say is like at this point we had maybe 3-ish years of kind of doing something
it was about
similar.
3 years. Yep. Hmm.
So like some people, there's a very definitive moment where they're like, oh, okay, yep, and this is the time where I've decided now that we cannot go on any further. Was it like that for you, or was
Um,
it more of just like a
I don't think I was willing to admit that I was like done
fair?
with, because you can't give up
Yep.
when you're in my position, and
Yep.
any mother can't give up. So
Yep.
I think I was just kind of like getting my boots tightened again and like getting ready to like, go out there.
Yep.
Um, and it wasn't until I had the call with the representative from your company. I can't
uh,
remember her name, but she was so helpful. And I was giving her all my tips and stats that I'd heard, like, well, is it going to be another 20 minutes a day, like on top of what we're already doing? And when she
yep.
told me, no, it's only going to be 15 minutes a day, of course,
Mhm.
I'm like, no way. But
Yeah.
that was a
I
huge
get
thing
it.
because,
Mhm.
yeah, because it just felt so counterintuitive to make somebody who wants to be better at this skill,
Yep.
but make them do it for longer periods of time throughout the day when it's like, you don't even necessarily know if he's going to, pursue careers in these
Yep.
areas. But at the same time, everybody has to learn how to communicate and everybody
Yep.
has to learn. I mean, it just benefits you if you can do all that. So
For
it
sure.
was just this battle. And I was like, I don't think I ever like threw up my hands and said, I never was looking for you, like this
Yeah.
program. I just think
Fair.
it came into my lap
Yeah.
through divine providence or whatever whatever you want to call it. And then once I heard all these things that I've been searching for, I knew it would be a good fit. So
Uh,
yeah.
Okay, so let's thank you for that, by the way. And like let's talk about like the journey and what actually happened, because I think that's where the beauty really lies, is to say, yeah, okay, so and I just asked you this and I wrote it down, I think somewhere in here. You guys started, did you say at the beginning of September? Was that right?
Yeah, like end of August, beginning of September. of this
Okay.
past year. Yeah.
And we wrapped up right before the holiday. And
Mhm.
so it was a couple of months that you were in the program. And like, how many minutes a day would you say that you guys did the exercises?
I would say between 10 up to 20. I don't think
Okay,
we ever went more than 20 minutes. So,
great.
and we probably missed one day of all.
Wow. And
So,
that's super,
but
super powerful. The consistency
okay,
matters.
yeah.
It really, really matters.
It
So
was
thank you for
doable.
sharing
I mean,
that.
that's doable, to do it 10 to 20 minutes a day. And I think one of the key, one of the parameters, I think her name was Anne. When I first talked to Anne on the phone,
Yep. Yep.
she put on it was like, can be any time of day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's best if they're fresh, but it seriously can
Yeah.
be any time of day.
Yep.
So when she said that, I was like, oh, well, the day is a lot of hours.
Yeah.
And then as long as there's some period of rest after, that was
Yep.
another parameter that we stuck to that I
Yep.
felt like, okay, that's doable as well. So
Yep.
um, once I knew that, I'm like, well, we could do it before. Sometimes we had to do it before bed,
Mhm.
sometimes we did it in the middle of the day.
Yep.
It just became part of
Yep.
our
It's just
routine.
what you do. Yep.
And
And
it
I
compared to what we were
appreciate that.
doing, it's
Uh-huh.
like, oh, he was way willing, like
Yeah.
this is all we're doing.
Yeah.
Like this is all we're
Yeah.
doing for the whole semester, was this
Yep.
is our language arts, is we're doing these brain exercises.
Yep.
Oh, I can do
Awesome.
that.
Yep,
So
not an
yeah.
hour, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, I think you had some amazing celebrations as you were going throughout the program. And, we just obviously got done celebrating his data at the end too. So, like, from your perspective, what would you say were some of your big highlights or your celebrations for what
Yeah. So
he's
I think
looking like now?
right. I mean, I think the program itself is cause for celebration once because it's module based. So once you get through each module, there's like you go from not knowing and not being proficient at it at the beginning, then you get to the end and they can fully do it. So I
Yeah.
think that in itself, like having those little wins throughout
So
were awesome.
cool. Yeah.
But I think as far as like like celebrations where I saw it transfer into something else was one of them was he was sitting there doing his math and it was like story problems, you know. He got done with the page and he goes, Mom, I, I realized I didn't have to sound any of those words out. Like I didn't stumble. And he
Wow.
was doing it independently and he didn't ask for help. And I go, I was like, oh, really? And it kind of struck me too, like, wait a minute, yeah, you just finished and it's right. And you didn't. So that was a big kind of
That's
indicator
a
in the
big deal.
beginning. And then another was just his confidence. Like we have monthly meetings with our homeschool teacher.
Yeah.
Um, and he had written a piece that he created on like a day in the life of a firefighter or something that he'd done on his own.
Cool.
And she asked him, kind of like put him on the spot. And she knew we were doing the program, but I think she was just feeling
Yeah.
confident to ask him. And she said, oh, will you read that to me? Wait, why don't you read it to me? And he goes, okay. And he just, without even hesitating, like read the whole thing to her, which I don't think that would have happened before. And then towards the end, because it's still like, I think we're still working through some confidence things, but all of the tools that the program provides with like looking at the data and counting the number of words and doing the percentages, that really helped him
Good.
because he wasn't really into like the praising and lots of
Yep.
positive word affirmations, but if he could like see that the data was showing improvement,
Mhm.
that was helpful. So we had reread a passage in the program. I think it
Cool.
was maybe a second grade passage, and when he realized that he read it at like a 98%, 98th
Yeah.
percentile or whatever, and he did
Yeah.
only miss like 5 words or something.
Yeah.
And he counted all the words and he counted the error. Like he had to
It's
do
not
all of
mom
it.
making this up. Like it's
No,
real
no,
data, buddy. Oh,
that was really powerful. And that was a huge win
cool.
for him to
Cool.
be able to go, oh, I have improved and I have done this myself. And, the work is paying off. So
Wow.
I would say those were the main ones. And then obviously towards the end of the program, we were able to retake his school's assessment.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't know
You
if you want
said
to
it
talk
was
about that now, but
yeah, go
it's called the
ahead.
Star 360. Yeah. Um, in August, he scored in I'm going to miss it up. Was it the 17th
You know
percentile?
what? You just told me. I wrote down the 17th percentile that he took it August 30th, and then it was, well, I'll let you say.
Yeah, he took it August 30th and he was at the 70th. I just don't want to mess it up. He was at the 17th
That's what I wrote
percentile.
down that you said.
Yes, in language arts. So this was his reading assessment. And he was at a grade 2.7 instructional reading level. And then in December, he took it again, and he was at the 47th percentile and at the 4.0
Yeah.
in grade in instructional reading level.
Yeah.
So, and his Lexile range went up like 400 points. Like it just was astronomically different. So that alone to me, I think,
Yeah.
I mean, just especially to prove to people like they're like, you're not doing any language arts. And the teacher was like, you're not doing any of this other stuff. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna just let me try it. I promise,
Let's do this
like I
one
feel like this is
program.
working. But that so
Yeah,
that
you
was
know
great
what?
too. That was a huge win.
That is a huge win. And I mean, I think to and people will ask that sometimes, and there's skepticism, and I get that, but like, does this actually transfer to things outside of the program? Because we do use norm referenced assessments, and so you do a
Yeah,
phonological awareness assessment, and then there's the wide range achievement test 5, and we use the reading assessment and the spelling assessment, and on those too, I mean, he went from the 4th percentile to the 39th percentile, which is enormous. I mean, it's a standard deviation and a half of growth, which is
yeah,
statistically a lot. And
yeah,
then, to see that echoed in another assessment is just really a lot of validation for you as a parent to say, like, okay,
right.
yeah, so if he went on this assessment from, this 17th percentile to the 47th percentile on another assessment, it's just more evidence that confirm not only the things that you're seeing at home, but in this other data, which is nice
Yeah.
to have.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not what we base everything on, but
Nope.
if you look at all the other factors, like that we didn't do any other language arts programs, that we've never made gains like that,
Yeah.
in all the years we've been trying to do this. So there's lots of other supporting evidence, I think, that
Yeah.
helped me realize like, wow, this this
Something
actually did
happened.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking about this earlier, but we don't have the ability to look inside of his brain to say,
Mm-mm.
like, okay, what exactly happened? But there is outward evidence that would tell us that things have reorganized and the way that he's actually hearing and responding to language is very different. So I guess, like, from your perspective as mom, like, you see him all the time and you definitely see him for school related things. Like, would you say that you've noticed visible things that are like, oh yeah, this is very different in how he's organized language in his brain?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but like just his willingness and desire to want to write
Yeah,
and want to communicate through writing has
cool,
improved astronomically. I mean,
cool.
he wouldn't really approach that before. He would be like, "Well, I'll just tell you, mom, and then you write it down, and then I'll copy it." It was like that was our
Yep.
routine because that's all I knew. But that now that he's willing to just write it down himself using the tools that
Oh,
you've given us through the program. Um, and yeah, I mean, and then just in reading, I've just noticed like more automaticity in his ability to just read words that I feel like before he would have stopped at and sounded out. And we even went back and looked at his reading like read aloud
yep,
sample from the beginning.
yep.
And so the fact that he's now kind of cruising through words that before
So cool.
he wouldn't have done that with, that to me is evidence because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like I said, we haven't
It's
done a
different.
ton. And we haven't done a ton of that this year so far. Like we've done just this program. So I know that something shifted because
Oh, that's
it
amazing.
wasn't through just the repetition of just reading a lot. I mean, we
Mhm.
did, but it wasn't the focus of the program. It was all these other
Yep.
factors that worked to develop that. So
Yay!
that's
Yay!
really
Yay!
cool.
Yay!
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, as a mom, I think one of the greatest goals, I mean, I'll speak for myself personally, is to help your child to feel their best and to have confidence and to just, be whatever they want to be and be whomever that they want in their
Mhm.
life, and, to kind of give themselves that gift. So, like, as a mom, are you proud of yourself? I mean, like, this,
Yeah,
it's a lot
I
of
really
work. It's not a magic wand that you wave over Jed and say, like,
no.
here, like, you do have to put in the time.
Yeah. I
But
mean, we've always been like, I think hard work has been like a very important core value in our family. So that didn't go away. I just think the working smart, like
yeah.
that we can learn how. And I think the fact that this program is designed like with a parent-child
Mhm.
foundation,
Uh-huh.
and to be able to really model that for your child, like yes, there's adversity, yes, like hard work pays off,
Yep.
also you have to learn how to work smart. And I think to be able to model that as a parent for your child is just, there's so many fruits from that. Like
Yeah.
you don't get opportunities like that very much, but you want them, like you want to be able to teach them that. And this
Yeah.
program helps you teach them that there's
Um,
working hard and there's working smart and there's adversity, but we can do this together and I'm going to show you how to do it, and they don't get that from, I'm sure they get that from lots of experiences, but I think to get that from your own parent and to see your parent like working with you to try
yeah.
to get to those points of success, it's awesome,
Uh,
it's,
that's so
yeah,
amazing. Well, and then the other thing that I think is just awesome is that you get a front row seat to watch that
yeah,
whole thing unfold, which is like the best gift in the entire world. You know what I mean? Because you get
yeah,
to see moment by moment these shifts and changes. And sometimes it's big and sometimes it's not, like there's just these little things that change from day to day, but it's still such a gift to
it
see
is. Because
firsthand.
nobody loves your child more than you do. So,
No, I get it.
and so it's like, of course you want to be the one to get to see all that.
Yeah.
And you probably recognize it better than anybody else too. So
For sure you would.
yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what he needs. And I think, you know, yes, you have a degree in education and that probably helped you a lot. But even if you didn't, like, I think that you can follow along enough. Like, we've got a lot of clients that don't have any background in that at all. So I guess the other thing that I think is maybe a little bit unique in the way that we approach this is that there is a mindset component and you have a mindset coach, and then there's the community that you also
Hmm.
get to meet with to do the Q&As. And so, like, would you say that there was a value for you in having done this differently for a period of years, like maybe on your own? I don't know if you had anybody else that was supporting
No,
you, but
not really. I mean, just research, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, was it helpful at all?
To have a community, yeah, to have like the accountability was very helpful. The community and always knowing you could go to a source where you would get an answer for the specific question you had. I mean, to just know that there's other people out there that are like also navigating this
Mhm.
was just knowing that. I mean,
Yeah,
I would all admit like I went to the calls, but I wasn't always able to like stay the whole time
it's
or I
okay.
wasn't able always to like participate, but I did
Yep.
find tons of value in in hearing people's stories and then also like being able to go to the Facebook group and just type in like, okay, we're in module 6 and we're struggling with this, and you can type it in
Mhm.
and find like 20 different other people who have the same question. So,
Yep.
just having that accountability and then knowing like that there is a path
Mhm.
and that people have walked it before and that they found success, like that alone was also very helpful. So,
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
mean, I know that like, and I was a high school teacher, so working with younger students is a completely different thing to
Oh,
tackle because there's a lot
yep.
more patience and a lot more understanding developmentally that I didn't have before I became a mom, and
Yep.
even when you become a mom, it's not like you all of a sudden
No.
know that stuff. So, it did help I think I like education and I value it, but I think every parent does, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so just to have this program to guide me, I hadn't had that before this. Like I felt like I was just kind of flailing and faking it till I made it, and I didn't know how
Yeah.
long I was gonna have to do that for.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, so this it just became such a I don't know, like a light. Like it was just like, oh, okay, just follow this. And we did, we just, and I
Yeah,
think
you
that's
did.
like what I would tell other
You
people, like
definitely did.
we didn't try to do anything else. We didn't try to overthink it. We just like each day we would just look at where we're at. And I didn't even look ahead. I just was like, what
Yep.
module are we on? Okay.
Yep. That's what we're doing
And
right
then
now.
you kind of just pay attention to like where they're at and when they're ready to
Yeah.
move on and come to the calls and ask questions. It's just,
Cool.
we just followed it to a T.
Well, you
And
did a great job, Angie.
so it's not, it doesn't take a lot of extra knowledge to be able to follow it. You just,
Cool.
each and every day, you just plug away and
And
take
you
it one
love
day
your
at a
kid,
time.
I
Yeah.
think that's the other piece of it that's probably easiest to just say, like, I'm here for you and I'm showing up and we're
Yeah.
gonna make this space for 10 to
Yeah.
20 minutes. And yeah, that's
And you always
awesome.
look at like, I mean, I would say to myself, well, what's the worst case scenario? Like
Mhm.
he still has this gifted brain. Like,
Yep.
let's say it doesn't work at all. You have to get yourself into those
Oh
like
yeah. Oh yeah.
mindsets. But I mean, all we can do is just take it one day at a time and just try it. And then,
Yep.
you know, so I
Yeah.
knew that it would work in that way because it was a path
Yeah,
was laid
for
out for
sure.
us.
Yeah, and there's a system and a plan, and that does really help sometimes is to
Yeah.
just know that like, okay, if I follow these steps, it will lead me to this other place. So I guess maybe my final question is just thinking about, like the mindset or some of the challenges that you have as a parent in trying to navigate what you suspect might be dyslexia, but you don't really know. And so I think a lot of people kind of flounder in this space of like, well, what if it isn't? And so am I gonna treat something that really isn't, oh, or maybe it'll just get better, or oh, boys
Yeah.
develop later, or, I think that there's a lot of stories that can be in place that really don't serve people to do something about it soon. Um, maybe they wait
Yeah.
years and years and they didn't maybe have to do that. So in looking back, like, is there any advice that you would give to yourself a few years ago or to other people that might be walking that same path that you were in,
Yeah.
like things that you've learned now?
Yeah. I mean, I think parents are the best experts on their children. I think
Yeah.
that's just always the case. So I think just like trusting that and being open to those like the intuition you have about where you're at with dyslexia. Because
Sure.
I think I needed to go through the whole process of like
Get it.
kind of I mean, I like I said, I didn't find this till when I found it and I
Yeah.
tackled it right when I found it. But
Yep.
I think if people are discerning it right now, like I think
Yep.
you kind of know, like, okay, maybe I need to try a few more things first
Mhm.
before I tackle it, or maybe I'm ready to tackle it. Like, I think you
Yep.
got to trust
Just
like your
trust your gut.
own
Mhm.
knowledge
Mhm.
of your own child and what you've already exhausted and what you've already, not saying that this is like a last resort, but I think
Yep.
if you're like you're saying, like if you don't really know if they're dyslexic, like I think
Yep.
parents who have a dyslexic child, like you definitely think you kind of know. Like I don't know, like the whole thing
Yep.
when things weren't clicking, like and we're doing all the things, like so if you have, if they have a tutor at school or if they have a teacher
Yep.
that is helping them and it's just still not clicking, I mean, I think if they're discerning this program, like you're
Mhm.
not going to go wrong, like in trying it if you have
Yeah.
those
Yep.
experiences
For sure. For sure. And
of
even
things
if
not
you
clicking.
Mhm. Mhm. And even if you
But I mean,
don't
Jed's
have
10,
it.
so we waited a while. Like I wouldn't have probably tried it when he was second grade or
Sure.
that's just me. Like I think
Yep.
I was
You
willing
had to travel a
to
different
just
path.
wait.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think people know their own child the
For
best
sure.
and they can look back on their own path and make the decision. And then they can and I think they can trust it. I mean,
For
in my
sure.
experience. So I don't
For
know if there's like
sure. Yeah.
a clear answer other
But
than
it
just
but
like
I think
trust your gut.
it's helpful to know, like, from somebody who's lived it, and, it's a journey for sure that you
Yeah.
have unexpectedly, like, nobody ever signs up for these things and
Yeah.
motherhood, like, okay, but this is
Yeah.
what we've got, and you learn so much along the way, and so I think just learning from somebody who's walked the path to say, here are the things that I learned, and to know that trusting your instincts, trusting your gut
Mhm.
about what is or what isn't happening, I think is super valuable advice.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think that's because it's hard to tell a one size fits all, because
For sure.
it's such a unique journey, and different
For sure.
kids have different forms of it. I think too, like
For sure.
different things they struggle with, or so
Mhm.
there's lots of factors. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Well, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to share Jed's story. And
Sure.
I'm so, so proud of you guys. It's just incredible what you've done. And I think, something else that I really want to just highlight is that she said that she missed one day. And so plasticity really bases a lot of its itself on repetition, like that matters. And so building up what the brain is able to do and providing that rest and then coming back to it again the next
Hmm.
day really, really matters. And so
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
want
that's
that to get lost in there that
no,
you
yeah,
said that
no,
you did it all the time, because that's
yeah.
super important.
Yeah, it is very doable because it
Mhm.
is such a small chunk of time a day and it isn't a very complex. And maybe it's just because compared to what I was doing before, it just
Sure.
seemed like so much more doable. I mean, there's no way I could have done what I was doing before every day because it was just so much information and it's so taxing. This was very manageable. I mean,
Oh, that's
even
awesome.
like when we even went on a few trips, like we went camping one time but it was like you just bring your little dominoes or
Yep.
whatever you have
Yep.
and your piece of paper and
Yep.
it
You
wasn't
make
like
it
a big
work.
kit you had to have, it was very easy to manage. For us, it was,
Yep.
so
Yep.
and we were committed, because it was a big
Yep. And I think that
so
that's important too. Like when you know that you are committed to the outcome and you are committed to changing things for your child, like that definitely factors in, the accountability factors in all kinds of things. So,
yeah.
well, thank
Yeah.
you so, so
You're
much
welcome.
for
Thank
sharing your
you.
story. And we're really grateful to have been on this journey with you. It's an honor for
Oh,
us. Thank
I
you.
can't thank you guys enough. Yeah. I hope
Thank you.
everybody, is exposed at some point that needs it. So,
Thank, thank you, Angie.
yeah, thank
Appreciate it.
you.